Electric cars are a sight to behold. Not only are they wondrous from an engineering aspect, but have their trade-offs for the environment. The first ever crude electric car was made in the late 1830s. This might come to as a shock, but the environmental impact disagreements have begun. It's been in arguments since the 1990s. Many people argue that the environmental impact of electric cars there is worse than their competitors with internal combustion, whilst others argue um, that electric cars are better for the environment than conventional internal combustion engines cars because the emission output is lower. There have been these two main sides of arguments for the past 3 decades. There is no need for an argument while a middle ground can be set in place that suits both parties. The first argument says lithium is the main ingredient for electric cars. The cars need a lot of lithium because electrical cars run off lithium ion batteries. While this seems good because this does not use fossil fuels, there is a large problem. The problem is that lithium is obtained the way the lithium is obtained, the mines that are dug for a lithium mine are on average 200 to 300 feet deep. This causes a large problem because it displaces the natural landscape as well as messes with the water table of that area. As well, on average, a single site of lithium mining causes irreversible damage to local soil, making it infertile. This is horrible for the environment because it rips out a large portion of native and fertile soil and it ruins it for years. This article states lithium extraction's environmental impact mentions to extract 1 ton of lithium, you need approximately 500,000 gallons of water. This is a large waste of resources for 1 ton of lithium when the average Tesla has around 900 pounds of lithium on each car. This means for 1 million gallons of water, you can roughly have enough lithium to produce 4.5 Teslas. The first argument says that the ability to recharge your car and have it a full charge when you wake up sounds amazing. There is one large problem, and that is electric cars charged by using fossil fuels, which defeats the purpose of electric cars running on fossil fuels because it is technically vicariously does run off of fossil fuels. This is said by Lomberg in his book, Gridlock Avenue. He goes on to talk about making the battery for an electric car. It can emit almost a quarter as much of greenhouse gases that an electric car emits in its entire lifetime. This lesson, the lesson of the perceived value of an electric car can be our car because it is manufactured and charged with non-green ways. This quote shows the importance of clarity of how one can easily be misperceived by something that is, in quotation, green. This can help us by finding better ways of production. The first argument believes that the ability to recharge a car, this is a problem of having grid support as well as how the grid runs. Less than 1% of all cars in the United States are electric. As well, Ford plans to have electric cars by 2035. Ford also plans to replace most trucks and light trucks with electric engines. There is a problem with the grid support because the industry electrical vehicle chargers installation cost $5,000 to $7,000, while the competitor fossil fuels for a single gas pump costs $2,000 to $3,000. There is also longevity, while a conventional fuel pump can be set it and forget it and can last around a decade or two. The electric vehicle chargers are the opposite. They have to be serviced semi-regularly, which drives up the cost even more. The second argument states that the article on the move talks about there are many pros for not having for not only the environment but also the use of an electric car, such as pricing as well as the ease of use of recharging, but also goes to talk about how a car is green and healthy for the environment compared to other options of hybrids and conventional internal combustion engines, such as the effect of regular engine can only produce 12 to 30% of energy into the wheel, while an electric car on average 77% of the energy to the wheel. This means that the car is not only more efficient, but it is also better when it comes to efficiency to engine output. The second argument talks about the second argument talks about this. The article talks about downtown emissions emitted by an electric car compared to a conventional internal combustion car. The comparison was impressive on both ends. Since the massive push to have green cars now, even if the fuel using the car is greener than ever, this is an important step to help with the fuel consumption as well with greenhouse gases and emissions. But it still doesn't compare to an electric car. There were almost no emissions at all. This is good because this means that they're finally getting on the right track when it comes to green transportation and green cars. This also is good because this means that there is a reliable car that can rival traditional cars when it comes to when it's concerned with practicality. When you can charge up when you're asleep and have a full battery when you are ready to leave. The second argument mentions in this article about electric cars and pollution is all about the difference between ICE, internal combustion engines, and EVs, electric vehicles. This is a large, very, this is a large and very chart-heavy article. But with this article, the data can be interpreted as saying that there are many ways that electric cars are better with 58% less environmental impact on the life cycle of the car. This is a massive plus when it comes to electric cars because this means they're becoming even more green and producing less and less pollution, as well other types of pollution such as noise pollution. It is said over 100 million Europeans are bothered by noise pollution, and electric cars are incredibly quiet compared to traditional cars. The common ground between the two sides is that all people want to have a good and healthy earth while also not paying too much money for gas. And this is a good common ground because with this common ground, we can make the leap and say that there's another area where there is common ground, is where people want a quieter and better future with electric cars running more quietly, as well as not on fuel. This means that committees will become sorry, because the supply chain will have to pay less to ship things, and therefore there will be less hike in prices. The compromise. The compromise is that the ability to get rare and precious metals needed to make electric vehicles are found. This will negate a majority of concerns when the first argument in the acquisition of materials and the waste and destruction of the earth, while the second argument gains even more support as well, a more environmentally friendly car. The final compromise is that the grid that is to power all of these electric cars needs to be sourced from a renewable energy source. This pleases the first argument because now the cars are running on clean energy. This also pleases the second argument because their cars will be cheaper and cheaper. The first argument believes and argues that the environmental impact of electric cars is worse than their conventional internal combustion cars, whilst the second argument believes that argues that electric cars are better than conventional internal combustion cars because the emissions output is lower. There is a middle ground for every argument, as the middle ground is that there are trade-offs for both cars, but the requirement for the metals and materials for electric cars are very harmful for the environment, and therefore there need to be better procedures in getting those materials. In this paper, there have been 3 articles for the first side that believe that electric cars are not worth the trouble and that lithium mining is not worth it, while there have been 3 articles supporting that electric cars are worth it because the less environmental impact, betterment of the world. There has been a common ground that has been established, as well as the solution that has been found where people would like to drive cleaner cars. That is only able to be achieved by clean energy source, as well as there needs to be a better lithium mining techniques that will not mess up tons of fertile soil, as well as waste hundreds of thousands of gallons of water.